Aisha, for more on this, former U.S. Secretary of State and former CIA director, as well as Fox News contributor, Mike Pompeo joins us. Mr. Secretary, thank you for taking time. Let's jump in right where Ryan Chilcott left off. A year ago yesterday, 13 service members killed at Abbey Gate. Your thoughts?
Well, Griff, first, Susan and I mourn the loss of those 13 lives. We pray for their souls and for their family members. It was something, Griff, that didn't have to happen. We didn't have to have the chaotic departure that we had from that airport. We all saw the pictures of people hanging off those airplanes. They're permanently etched in our memory. This was a political decision that President Biden made. I think he made it uniquely and alone. I think his military advised them, much as the military advised us during our time in office, that an exit down to zero under the conditions that existed there, with the Taliban still at strength, presented precisely the risk that ended up in the loss of these 13 lives. This isn't about politics. This is about good, honest American security. President Biden failed to deliver that. And for those 13 families, know that their service to America was indeed noble.
Mr. Secretary, a little earlier in the program in the last hour, Congressman Jake Auchincloss, a Democrat, says he believes that we're in a better position now with respect to security on Afghanistan. You disagree. What needs to be done?
Well, that's fundamentally not true. We're not in a better position with respect to security. You need only ask the generals who were responsible for this. General Votel and General McKenzie have both spoken about this. We knew this. We knew that our efforts to reduce forces, President Trump wanted to get our kids back home and reduce America risk and exposure there in Afghanistan as well. We did that. We went from about 15,000 to a little over 2,500. But we could only make that final decision to get everybody out when the conditions were right, and they never were. And as a result of what President Biden did, we are less secure. There is more risk from that place. The risk of al-Qaeda's resurgence is real. We have to continue to be determined to keep America safe. We all remember not only those 13 lost lives, but the 3,000 lives that were lost in New York, and we can never let that happen again.
That's a great point, Mr. Secretary, and you're looking now at the list of those 13 service men and women that were killed at Abbey Gate. We showed a graphic just earlier when you were talking about it. We apologize, it was the wrong one. This obviously is that important list as we remember them a year on. Let me just turn a little bit to the current situation in Ukraine. You heard reporting from our great reporter, Alex Hogan, talking about strikes on the nuclear plant in Zaporizhia. Your reaction, your thoughts on where that stands?
There's a lot of risk when there's artillery flying around a nuclear power plant. I hope they can figure out how to find a way to make sure that that power plant not only isn't attacked or not destroyed or brought offline again. It sounds like it's back online. That's good news. But that it is secured in a way that prevents the cataclysmic loss of life that could follow from a radiation leak as a result of fighting around it. But, Griff, as you think about this transition from these two topics, my judgment, they're connected. The decision that President Biden made that day to allow Americans to be left behind, to allow 13 Americans to be put in a place where they were ultimately killed, is something Vladimir Putin saw. And his aggression in Ukraine certainly was, his decision to make this aggression in Ukraine was certainly influenced by his understanding that the risk from the President of the United States was lower than it was during the 4 years that we were serving.
Well, and you set me up, Mr. Secretary, for my next question, which is clearly we are seeing further aggression on the part of China, sending some nuclear-equipped bombers near Taiwan on the heels of a recent visit by Senator Marsha Blackburn. And then, of course, the provocations we saw after House Speaker Nancy Pelosi visited. Your reaction, are we headed ever closer to war?
Well, Griff, we'll get a big role in making sure that Xi Jinping's costs are perceived as being too high, but it doesn't appear that President Biden is serious about this. Don't forget, too, the cast of characters is long. The Iranians are now providing weapon systems for these rogue regimes as well, and we're about to hand them $500 billion, $750 billion, $1 trillion by a silly nuclear deal. The bad guys, Griff, watch each other. They watch how America responds. If we have determination, if we execute a plan that we are strong and deliver deterrence on behalf of the American people, then the kinds of things we're describing, Putin's invasion in Ukraine, missiles flying around Taiwan, the Iranians feeling like they can attack people on American soil, those things won't happen. But it takes a president and a commander-in-chief who's determined to protect the things that matter most for the American people.
Let me just turn, if I can, Mr. Secretary, and get you to put your hat on as the former CIA director about this affidavit. Most of it is blacked out, but there is some information here. And I want to know, do you believe, as they say in this affidavit, that they believe the disclosure could have resulted in exceptionally grave damage to national security? Do you see anything in this affidavit that, as the former CIA director, alarms you that it could put our national security at serious risk?
No, Griff, even the former CIA director can't read through all that black. The truth is there's still a lot of unanswered questions. Every American leader has the responsibility to protect important American secrets, to keep our soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines, and our CIA officers safe. So that is an absolute imperative. But I've seen nothing yet to prove to me that it made any sense for the FBI to go to a former president's home to raid it in a way that is absolutely historic. The Department of Justice, the FBI, have a lot of explaining to do about why that was necessary to try and protect these secrets. I hope they do that. I hope they'll show that to the American people. We all certainly deserve it.
And a last question for you, Mr. Secretary, as you talk about your comments about the failed leadership of this administration overseas, and now we're talking about national security as well. Do you believe it's time for a former Secretary of State and former CIA director become President of the United States?
Oh, goodness. Only time will tell. I'm spending a lot of time, Griff, helping folks all across America who are a lot of veterans, a lot of people who are serious about protecting America, have good outcomes in November. We'll stay focused on that, and then before too long, we'll see who all heads for the 2024 effort.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is not a no. Former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, thank you very much for your insight. Have
Thanks,
a great
Griff. Have a great rest of your weekend, sir. Yes, sir.